All right, it is Wednesday night, January 31st, and this is the Convene Communities podcast. I am Laurel Marr, the owner of the Death and Resurrection Doula community on Convene Communities, and I am here tonight for Matt Curran, and I have two of my training doulas with me. So I just want to say welcome, and I want to do a brief introduction of myself, and then let Tina and Bonnie give a brief introduction for themselves. But I am the creator of the training program for the Death and Resurrection Doula curriculum. And I'm an end-of-life doula. I trained in 2019. I jumped into the world of the death doula movement and quickly realized that there was an absence of any Christianity in the movement. And so I have gone to seminary, got my master's degree, and created a training program. And now I am so happy to say I'm training a great group of women right now. We've had some interest from men, but right now it's been mostly women, and just a really great group of people who have a call on their heart to learn how to serve the dying. So I'm gonna pass the mic to Tina. Can you give a brief introduction?
Sure. Hi, I'm Tina Reeder. Thanks, Laurel, for having me here tonight. So I am a high school teacher by day and a therapy dog handler as well. And I have um, a little side gig that I do with my dog. We call it Pup Medics. And Pup Medics is we are canine first responders in crisis care. And I was very interested in Laurel's training program as a death doula. And I'd love to be able to combine those two, the death doula with the crisis care with the golden retriever that I have, the therapy dog. So that's just a brief little thing. And I reside in South Florida. So nice to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll talk a little bit more about Tina's brand, what she's doing with her dog Duncan, and her hospice care work, and how the Death and Resurrection Doula Training Program is fitting into that. It is not a one size fits all. It certainly can cross many different brands, which is exciting. And Convene Community allows us to be successful in that. All right, Bonnie, can you give a brief introduction?
Sure. I'm Bonnie Slavin, and I reside in Northeast Ohio between Akron and Canton. I'm an activities assistant at a senior assisted living facility. We work with assisted living and memory care. And I have my end of life companion business, which is called Preparing for Your Passing.
Awesome. And we'll dig into this a little bit later too, but Bonnie was certified in a different program and was looking for Christian collaboration. So she found my program, and something I had in my mind was how to work in certified doulas from other training programs. And we've been working together, and I think we're hitting our stride with that. So I look forward to
Wonderful.
talking about that a little bit later in the podcast, and making this an avenue for people who have certifications through the other training programs that don't have a spiritual foundation to them, to come over and join us and take advantage of the profit building possibilities inside of Convene, because that can be tough. The end of life doula movement is new. A lot of people are still becoming familiar with the word end of life doula or death doula. And even if they've heard of it, it's not an easy choice to hire an end of life doula, because it may mean that someone you love is dying, or the person that hires you is facing the end of their life. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, but I want to say more. Why are death doulas emerging right now? And I'm going to speak on it for a minute, and then let Tina and Bonnie say something from their perspective if they want to. But so again, I trained in 2019. The training for end of life doulas has been around over a decade. I'd say probably about 15 years, but it is rapidly growing. And when I trained in 2019, it was just on the cusp of COVID-19. I, watching this movement, and I've seen a plethora of budding training programs since that time. And I think we're going to see more, and they all have a little bit of a niche that they are trying to fill. And here we are filling the theological niche for end of life doula training and care. So, but why? In America, we have a denial of death, and that is not something that has just slowly crept up on us. It's been going on for some time. I was reading, right about when the pandemic started, someone sent me an article because I knew I was newly certified as an end of life doula, of someone who was at the time, running a hospice here in Charlottesville where I live. And he said that in America, we've come to think of death as elective. And so that certainly is not true. And we're not sure exactly how to speak about death, much less prepare for it. So end of life doulas are being trained to come to individuals and communities and families and help them think about death, talk about it, and plan for it. And the best time to do it is long before you get sick. So that's a little bit about what an end of life doula is. So, well, they're going to help with education, but also we're really servants in the space of end of life care. And oftentimes, you will have a client that's willing to do some planning prior to any terminal diagnosis. But also, sometimes I jump into a situation where someone is imminently dying and there may not be planning in place, or people in their family and community have certainly not mentally and emotionally and spiritually prepared for the loss of someone they love. So we come alongside in that experience, and we're not medical, but we work really well with a hospice team. Private pay, we're not part of hospice. The three of us on this call are not. There are hospice agencies that have hired, end of life doulas, or have created volunteer training programs for end of life doulas. But we're a bit different. We are, out on our own with our own vision of being an entrepreneur and coming in and helping families in this space. There's a gap between what hospice care can give to dying patients and their families and what the families are expecting and likely prepared to give in that time. So doulas really come in and help organize and help make that process more smooth. So do Bonnie or Tina, do either of you guys want to add something from your perspective on the end of life doula movement?
I think we've gotten away in the last 100 years from taking care of our loved ones that are in the process of dying or have died. And I think that when that happened, that took the personal touch away from the situations. We handed it over to the funeral homes and such. And, for that aspect of planning for end of life. But yes, I do agree also that with COVID-19, you saw how stretched the medical field was, and they needed help, and they continue to need help.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm just thinking about how I first got introduced to this was just visiting as a volunteer with the dog hospice patients. And it was just one of many places that I would visit if I would go to the hospital. And we have a couple hospitals here that actually have a hospice floor. So they're inpatient. Their IPUs. So I would visit these patients, and I just noticed they did not often have other people visiting them. like the other hospital floors. Like if I would visit somebody else in a different floor of the hospital, they would have family members and such there. But when I would visit the hospice patients, it often seemed that they were alone. So that's where my heart really was drawn to the hospice floor and bringing the dog, because they really seemed to appreciate the dog coming on that floor even more because they didn't have other family members that were visiting them in the hospital.
That's amazing. Well, thank you both for your bringing your wisdom in, because I can speak about it from my perspective as someone who has put their heart and soul into building a training program. But you're also out there and you're seeing it, and so it helps to have layers of perspective. I want to build on something Bonnie said. She said, we've outsourced, the end of life care, and particularly even after death care, to the funeral home. And it's reminded me of this quote that I put in my master's thesis by John Bear. He says that if Jesus shows us who God is in the way that he dies as a human being, if we don't see death, then we don't see the face of God. And a movement that is, predicated on wellness through end of life planning prior to sickness, so that we can be happy and live our lives and not fall into fear of one of the leading fears in America, which is death. I don't see a successful venture forward without, speaking of God and speaking of what death means from a Christian perspective. So we've tackled that missing element through, or I've tackled it through creating a program. But it's not just me. So because I am on the Convene Communities platform, it enables me to draw in a crowd who's also willing and able to collaborate. So like here tonight on this podcast, we're collaborating, we're sharing our perspectives. So when I trained on a different training platform for the training program where I received my certification, it was a very one woman thing. I would go in and I would take all my, download my packets and do my reading. I was able to join a webinar weekly because I scheduled my time out to join the live training. But it was a webinar. I could ask questions through the chat, but I certainly couldn't, see the other doulas. I could only see the woman who was training us. I, couldn't have conversations with other people. And I really didn't know anybody that was also training. I think I was living in New York City. I met one girl through the chat. We shared email. But we, I think what I'm seeing here between the doulas I'm training is that friendships are forming, even though they live across different states. And I know they're reaching out to each other. And then if someone contacts me from one state, I can say, you know what, let me tell you who else is in your state, or they can go look in the state directory and find other training doulas, certified doulas, and then they can reach out to them via message inside the platform. So it's keeping this piece of collaboration in the forefront, which is essential to actually really growing a movement that comes from the heart. So I can say that Convene Communities, the way they offer a platform for training is different than any other training platform that's out there. And so what it does is it allows me to be a mentor. So I am trained as an adult doula. I have a seminary degree. Theology is my my prime interest. And so I've taken those things together and become a mentor to people like Bonnie and like Tina and the other doulas that I'm training, because they have a call and they're looking for someone who has the knowledge in both the practitioner part of a death doula, but also in the movement and also in the Christian response. And so as a mentor, I am training them, and also along those lines, we're not just stopping there. I am a part of Convene's onboarding, which brings doulas in to learn the information, but also take it out and be successful. I think that's where the other training programs drop off, is that you can get your certification and you can, put your name on, a directory, but I think it's very static. You could, put your picture and a little bit about yourself with your email or your web and or your website. But here in Convene Communities, we're able to build out a state directory, and I have some slides. So I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. If I can see the slide, great. So, all right. If you train with the Death and Resurrection Doula training program, you have a lot of different options. Not everybody wants to be a leader. Not everybody wants to run their own business. You can do a wide variety of things. You can, rise to more of an executive leadership level and become a state an international leader, or you could function, just as someone who wants to have a business and work a little bit in their community, or you could become a community volunteer. I have a lot of people who are also, as much as some people want to set up an LLC, some people want to set up a 501c3. So the options are wide. But how this tiered system works is that, we have the training program, we have the state directories. We're never recreating the wheel. Instead, when doulas become certified, they, join their state, and inside of that, they can actually set up their business, and it can function is proper, just like a website. And the marketing piece is there because Convene Communities does marketing for you. But also they can work together inside their state and let members who come in and join that state, help them be aware of what is actually going on in the, the state of Alabama or the state of Arizona. Canada, for instance, has a lot going on with the topic on medical aid and dying. So it's not just a place for each doula to have their own business. It's also a place for doulas to work together and grow their state and educate on a wider level everything that needs to be known, because this is a movement, and things are changing, and death practices are changing. So I just want to say that Convene Communities has every element that is possibly needed to grow a movement, grow individual businesses, and and make an impact on the world. Okay, so one thing that's really great about that too is you can have one login to train, to run your business. It's all really great. So I want to look at the next slide. All right, so when you join the Death and Resurrection Doula training program, you may be new to Convene. You may find that you come across the training program if you're in a different community in Convene, or you were even referred to a different community first. And it's very easy, to come over and join the community and see what's, happening on the community level. And then if you want to take it a level further, you go into the training program, you get your certification, and you build your business. So once you do that, you finish the certification process and you enter into the continuing education and collaboration. It's an association. And so I have one competitor out there, which is called National End of Life Doula Alliance. And that was set up by leaders of some of the other doula training programs to create a micro-credentialing certification for others coming in from different training programs, so they could all share, some particular practices like ethics and some other responsible practices of being a doula, because at this time there's not any regulation. So, but there's no reason why our association can't function in a way to also create a standardization for doula care. But we can rise to the top on that because we have the opportunity to help each other build our businesses and grow this movement out. And so Convene gives us the resources to do that. I can, as doulas that are certified, they can purchase Convene memberships where they can actually not just house their brand and strategy inside of their state, but they can also bring in their clients and have private groups for their clients, and they can even create a payment system so their clients can even pay through their particular group. And how this benefits the doula and the client is that all the information is privately held in one place. One thing that I see a lot when I work with clients is, where are we going to store end of life documents? Or I run into a family and they say, hey, we know mom has these over, in the kitchen, but I live out in another part of the country and I need access. So the easy thing to do is to, upload those documents onto Convene so that in a private group, anyone who needs access to that can be given the access. There's a popular site called Caring Bridge where others from a community can come in and stay up to date with the what's going on with the patient. They can say, hey, I want to bring a casserole by. And so everything you want to do is possible to do inside of groups, inside of states. And so it just brings professionalism to a new level, even helps track with your bills. There's no reason to train and then leave your training and go try to be a doula on your own, maybe find a collaborative group here or there. Everything can be housed right inside Convene Community, and we can continue to grow. One option that Convene also offers is a franchise model. So if I have a great training program, no one needs to go out and create the wheel. Instead, they can go bring others in through their work out in the community. Someone says, you know what, I want to be a doula. They say, okay, great. Well, you should go join this training program. And I offer a really good referral fee on that. So it's another way to increase your revenue. And so, what are the referral fees, and, how does that work specifically? So I offer referral fees on a couple things, or on everything I do, actually. So one is the cost of the training program. If Bonnie or Tina brought in another doula, and I know they will, because the doulas I know are already sharing their links, and I'm seeing new community members that are coming in on the referrals of other training doulas, then they will get a referral fee on that total $900 of the cost of the training program. But also, when a certified doula joins the continuing education, this slide's wrong, it's actually $25, I'm sorry, they will continue to get referral fees if that certified doula ends up either doing a private or a premier Convene membership. Then they will continue to receive referral fees there. And the one thing I'm also adding this summer, which I'm very excited about, and pretty much just announcing it this week. I announced it in class Monday, but coaching. So I'm going to offer a third module in the summer where I'm going to teach doulas how to become platform experts, and they are going to learn how to coach other doulas find their brand and find their strategy. As Bonnie has a business, and Tina has her own Pup Medics business, but they're very different, and they're very different from what I do as well. And so, how do we find our brand and our strategy? Well, it comes through having a mentor. So I'm not the only mentor. The doulas that I'm training and certifying are also, going to be mentors and able to help, either doulas in their state, or maybe a doula came and found another doula's brand that he or she really liked, and she contacts that doula and says, hey, could you coach me in that? It's another stream of revenue, and all of these things have referral fees on them. So it's a really great way to have a constant stream of income on
Hey, Laurel.
top of, yes.
For the record, I just like to say the word doula.
Oh, thank you.
It's fun. It's a fun word to say.
Thank you.
Can-
I'm
can-
probably talking too much. So, okay,
Well-
I want to pause and have you go to one more slide 4, Andy. Thank you. Okay, so this is another look at the referral fees. So you can see that if you brought someone in and they fell on your tier one, that you would actually get $90 for module one, and you would get $90 for module two. So that's 180. If that person goes out and brings someone in, they would fall under your tier two, and then another person tier three, etc. So you're going to see streams of income that you had no idea you had anything to do with, and so that's a real positive. Okay, so I want to shift really quickly to onboarding and how do you come in and learn the Convene platform, and then I want to look inside a little bit inside of the businesses of Bonnie and Tina. So, all right, onboarding. So Convene Communities is already set with tutorials on how to jump in and have a very successful mentorship, and how to bring others, whether it's through doulas or through personal training or financial, doing your own stocks. There are so many, the sky's the limit on what you want to be a mentor in, but everything, is it's you're able to bring in mentors, bring in mentees, turn them into mentors, and have them be successful in having their own businesses, doing what they love, and also helping others do what they love. So whether you jump on Convene as a person who's just looking around, there's free content. You could take another step up and you could become a platform professional, and you could actually have a monthly subscription where you have group calls on really learning the platform, talking about branding and talking about strategy for what you want to do as a mentor. Or you can even go beyond that and get into more one-on-one coaching. So if you can do that across the Convene community, you can also do that inside of communities, and there's no need to recreate the wheel on anything, but we can take the tutorials that are there, we can embed them into our program, and also as we build the content of what we're teaching, we can also include exercises. For example, in module one, the practicum is to create your own story experience, and I've seen Tina do hers, and I know Bonnie's working on hers. So that's just another way to engage in the dynamic opportunities that the platform gives you. And one of the great things about Convene is that behind it, it is about sharing your story. It's about sharing what you know. So really, the opportunities are limitless. And I am going to stop talking and see if maybe let's start with Tina on her brand a little bit. You want to talk a little bit more about Pupmedics
Sure.
and some of the success you've seen with what you're doing?
Yeah. So in the beginning, when, just praying through it, knowing that I wanted to do therapy dog work and was doing it, I found a need for what you call mentorship. So there's a lot of therapy dog organizations out there. We're not short of those. And I didn't want to reinvent the wheel. But what I was doing that I thought was different, well, not different, but more streamlined or more specific, was crisis care with the dog. So I have a golden retriever. And so if you know anything about golden retrievers, they are very, I don't know what the word would be, adaptable, I think would be. So as he's with me at school and he's with high school kids all day, I could take him to, say, I find out a friend of mine just went to the emergency room. I can show up at the ER with this dog, walk back there to the emergency room through beeping machines and chaos and craziness, and walk into her room. This is actually what happened, and be able to comfort her and talk her through what she's going through right then. So he was more of a crisis response dog. I saw him adaptable to be able to go into those situations. And then me as well. I find that I have the ability to do that, to be in crisis. So whether it's in a crisis situation or it's a a dying person or someone near death or someone who has a terminal illness or a grave condition, you might call it, I find that I could go in there with the dog and it lessens the I don't know, the intensity of the moment, be able to allow the person to pet the dog, to feel a little bit more comfortable, to talk if they need to talk, and just be there to listen. So that's where I started with it. And the pup medics comes from paramedics. So that's why I say we're canine first responders. So that's where it kind of all came from. And then the logo being the cross, being able to bring the hope of Jesus, the comfort from God, being able to pray for people. Was also a big part of it. So there's a cross in the logo, there's the heart, and then there's the paw print. So put that all together, and then we're canine first responders in crisis care. Well, then with the doula care portion of that, I'm thinking that possibly I'd be able to do more with those end of life patients with the dog or with me alone, either one. But I would think that that could be combined somehow. And then, Laurel, as you were talking about being able to mentor other people, the mentorship part I saw was finding people who already have trained therapy dogs to find their calling with their therapy dog. Because as I said, I have the dog at school, so he's a campus school therapy dog. There's others also on our campus. It's a very large church school that I'm a part of, and the church has a full-time um, social worker or licensed clinical social worker that sees clients. And she has a golden retriever as well. And so that golden retriever sits in those counseling sessions, often with adolescent girls. And she does like legitimate therapy work, with the dog sitting there. So that's a different avenue. And I'd love to be able to mentor people who have a desire to use their dog to provide comfort and care in a variety of places, whether it's schools or in hospitals, or maybe they are a licensed clinical social worker, or they are licensed in some other type of a field where they'd want to use their animal. So I'd love to be able to mentor someone through that, since I've had experience already in so many different areas. I also do crisis response for example, I went along with the Salvation Army for the last hurricane that we had here in Florida, and I was able to go on the west coast of Florida and respond with the Salvation Army. So I've been in disaster response as well with the dog, which is another totally different avenue to have a therapy animal with, and totally different training and things to consider, and care for the dog as well as the people, and what you're dealing with in that respect. I was also a part of, we had our that horrific tragic event in Parkland here in South Florida with the school shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and I was permitted to go in that school with somebody else's therapy dog, and again, totally different scene right there. So I would love to be able to mentor, and then learn myself and still grow in that area of being able to use the dog in crisis care, whether that's end of life care, or if that's disaster response, or it's kids at schools, or convalescent centers. I mean, it's pretty much endless, where a trained dog with a trained handler can provide hope in tough times, whatever those times would entail. So
That's really great, Tina. I've enjoyed hearing what you're doing, and I'm really excited because you are the first person training who has this vision. So I look forward to seeing more people pick it up and explore it. Doc, you said you have a question.
Yes, ma'am. So, question for both of our guests tonight. This I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask anyway. Are you ladies both members of Convene?
Yes.
My cult leader, my boss made me ask that question.
yes.
Excellent. Thank you. That's
Okay,
it.
I want to add something really quickly, and then I want to talk to Bonnie a little bit about her coming in as a certified doula. So that's
Mm.
really, really cool. And I think it's working well. And she nodded earlier when I said it. So I want to talk about it a little bit more. But I think for Tina, people receiving an end of life, like a terminal diagnosis, is can be one of the most traumatic things, especially if somebody is younger. When I was training as a doula, one of the things that I was told early on in the training program is that the hardest death to accept will be someone who has an aggressive cancer and they're young. And young doesn't have to be 20. I mean, it could also be 40, 50, 60. I've had two clients in their early 60s with aggressive cancers, and they felt they had so much more life to live. They neither of them were retired, and so fact that they were no longer going to be able to go to work at some point. That was very, very difficult. I also served a woman who was we were the same age. She was 43. I was 43 when I served her, and she had a little girl. And all three of these were very aggressive cancers, and no one had their end of life planning done when I took the job. So what that says is, we don't think we don't think we're gonna we're going to die, and so we're not going to do our planning, and then we receive this traumatic terminal diagnosis, and we don't really know where to turn. So I'm just building on what Tina's saying here about taking the dog in, and and being a part of that part. So I'm just curious if you've thought maybe that's something to think about, Tina. I don't know if you do think about it, but even for something as important as the end of life planning piece.
Mm. Yes, I would think. And that's why, gosh, it's like endless. But I'm thinking about a moment I had in when I was volunteering with the dog. So I volunteer for a local hospice here, and I had been seeing this one client, and I was doing his end of life or his life story. So that's part of the hospice, what the hospice offers. And you ask some questions, and then you write his story pretty much. You give it to it's a computer program, and you put it in, and then the company actually writes a book and has all about his story. And so I was spending a lot of time with him doing this, and I would bring the dog along. And it was great because I was able to talk to him freely, and then he was felt comfortable talking to me. It's like the dog breaks down that barrier, I guess, and we have that relationship that has started. So I'm doing that, and then I didn't realize that I was going to end up being a part of his end of life vigil. So I didn't even know that was a vigil until I started your program, Laurel. And in the training, now I'm learning that's exactly what that was. And I sat with that patient the the day before he passed. So he was unresponsive, but I mean, not being able to speak, but breathing and laying there. And I prayed with him, and I had the dog with him and held his hand and talked to him and read a prayer book that I knew that he had. And it was a very, very special time for me. And it was after that that I found I found you. And then, of course, got involved with the training program. So I could see how God had already led me by experiencing this with this 95-year-old veteran, which was very, very special for me to be able to do.
Well, if anybody wants to go in and join the Florida state group, they can then go in and find pup medics. And when I was starting to build that up for you, I actually put your blog
Oh,
up there.
story.
What,
That's right. The blog
remind
is
me
in
his
there.
name? Yeah.
Carmine.
Carmen,
Hmm.
right. So people,
Yep,
you wrote a really great
I
piece.
did.
I encourage people to go in and read it. So Matt is asked for, for us to share a fulfilling moment that we've had as being a doula. It doesn't have to be through only you've had after you've had training, but maybe something that is, that you've experienced that made you, want to be a doula. You sort of just shared one, Tina. Bonnie, do you have
Hmm.
anything you want to share about the fulfillment of doula work?
Well, in my capacity as an activities assistant, I'm not really free with the time to go in when our residents are in the process of passing away. But there have been a few times when I've been able to go in for a few moments and just talk to them, pray with them, let them know that they've been important to me and to our community. And I think when I first saw the term death doula, which was exactly a year ago this month, it was like everything clicked in my head, and it was taking what I felt comfortable doing when those opportunities arose at the assisted living and putting it with the training for being a death doula, and it just clicked. So that would be a special time for me when I've been able to be with them where I work.
Well, it's amazing. And I think a lot of people spend time in assisted living, skilled nursing facilities, and they know the importance of the work that staff take on. And I believe that doulas are going to become more of a familiar member of staffs. Here we've talked about us as we are, at this point, gearing in the private direction. But I have actually seen advertisements for employment looking for a doula at a assisted nursing or assisted living facility. So we're going to see more and more of it. I've actually seen one. I saw that there was a cemetery in Washington D.C. that's has hired an end of life doula. So we are bringers of comfort, and the word doula means servant, and so to have doulas in this time where we are reclaiming the conversation around death is something that's important. To have doulas who fully understand the dying process, the traumas that those who are facing death are experiencing, and to be educated on what do you do when somebody dies, or what kind of documents do you need to have in place when someone is facing the end of their life. So doulas do that with knowledge, with wisdom, and they have the ability to comfort those that they're serving as well. So I'm just going to jump in with Bonnie here for a second, because I am very, very, very excited, Bonnie, that you are the first one who's come in and said, I'm looking for what you have. And I think we've
Mhm.
worked together really great and made it work. And
I
so
agree.
this is a template for the future for sure. So I'm just going to, give a talk for a minute on what we've done, and then if you want to give some feedback, that would be really awesome.
All
So
right.
Bonnie reached out to me. She said, I'm in a collective. It's not really, meeting the need of what I'm looking for. What can you offer, Laurel? And I, hear that she's already certified. And I said, well, I don't expect you to, start over with me and retrain, and so I built an abridged curriculum for Bonnie. And for those who, were also going to be in the same place and, wanting to join the really great program that we're building and the collaboration and using the Convene platform. So she's walking through the abridged version, and she's joined the association, so that gives her access to join any live class that she wants. So she's there on most Tuesday nights, and she's getting another dose of business development training, which I'm just kind of interested to see, how this program is layering on top of what you did.
The first course that I took, Laurel, it was what I call very bare bones. It touched lightly on all the aspects of being a doula. There was a larger focus, I feel, on the business part, though. So I kind of got a taste for being a doula. And then I was hearing a lot about the MAID movement, medical assistance in dying, and VSED, which is voluntary stopping of eating and drinking. And for me, that was not something that I could get on board with. I was looking for camaraderie that could understand where I was coming from. And I've met some wonderful people since last January when I started training, but I needed more. I needed more that was faith-based. And I was so thankful to come across you when I did an internet search, and there you were. And I know you weren't there last year when I signed up for my initial class. And there was a reason for that. I'm sure there is. I'm sure God has a reason. But I'm just tickled that I found you. I'm honored that you were able to create the curriculum for me, and that I could join in as I did.
Well, I'm glad you're here, and I'll say, prior to building this program, which I launched pretty much last June of 2023, and it is the first and only Christian doula training and program in the world, that I was also, searching through, Facebook groups and the National End of Life Doula Alliance, looking for a group, and I couldn't find it. I really couldn't. I even, joined a Virginia group, and it just, like, everybody has the same goal of being a helper, right? That is really great. And I think anyone, regardless of what someone's faith is or what their previous experiences that brings them into being a doula, they're there for a real reason. But there is something different about finding the camaraderie of other Christians. And it does elevate the level of, just of what we can share, what we can talk about, and just even having hope and confidence and faith that as we someone who is dying, whether that person is a Christian or not, we serve from our faith, and to be surrounded by doulas that also share that faith, it does make it makes a big difference. And so I look forward to seeing other doulas who have trained in another program, but saying, I'm looking for that connection that I can't quite find, coming in and joining the abridged version with Bonnie, and diving into Convene and onboarding, learning the platform, becoming a coach. This is how we are going to grow, because we don't want to just stay in the 15 states that we currently have in our directory. We want to go worldwide, and it's going to take a lot of us to do it. And it just hands down is fully possible with the structure of Convene Communities, with the starting with the mentorship, moving on to the franchise possibilities, which draws in those who have mentored under me to be mentors to others. And that is how we expand. It is totally teamwork. So I'm gonna see if anybody wants to make any closing statements, or if anybody watching wants to ask us any questions. You can ask a crazy question about end of life care.
I can open the phone lines too if you like.
Oh, open the phone lines. Great.
Open them up. Roger.
Okay. Let's see.
Bueller.
I'll think of. You got somebody?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Not yet. Don't be shy. That's right. Call in now, folks. Be the fifth caller.
When's his next performance?
About 3-4 minutes.
I will tell you that, one of the things that I've seen change since, training to be a doula is, and I trained right before the pandemic, but I really have seen a growth in the familiarity of the term, not just for people wanting to be a doula, but people say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I say, "I'm a death doula." And they say, "Oh, I've heard of that." So I really have seen growth there. There was a guy who had me on a podcast. Oh, we have a caller, and then I'll finish that point.
That's right. Caller, go ahead.
Hey, Laurel.
Hi.
It's Matt.
Hey.
Boy, them pain pills must be working pretty good right about now.
No. Well, no, I appreciate all of y'all coming on. And, I'm laid up here having had my hip replaced this week. I appreciate it. Good job. So, but yeah, I really appreciate this program and what you're doing. You know that. We talk about it all the time. And for all of your doulas coming in, I think y'all are going to make a incredible impact in this world. So thank you for being a part of Convene.
Thank you.
Thank you for your leadership and guidance. You've really filled the space that I, was looking to have filled, because when I became certified, there's a gap. I mean, if we're here to fill the gap for families, there's a gap in becoming successful as a death doula. It's not just handed to you. You've got to work for it, and we need a program and a system that's going to allow us to quickly be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. And y'all are doing great things. So
yeah. Well, hurry up and get well.
Thank you.
Yes,
I appreciate it. So I don't have to use services. I appreciate that. All right.
I know. Matt said,
"Have a good night."
My services
Night,
this week.
Matt.
All right. So Amy's asking, what's the biggest misconception of death doulas? Oh, that's a good question, Amy. I got
People are
one
just dying to get in. I had to go there. I had to.
off
Sorry.
the top of my head, and then I got to say what I was saying about the podcast. It's a great closer. Off the top of my head, people think if you hire a death doula that you're dying. You don't have to be dying to hire a death doula. You can hire someone when you are well. Like everyone on this call tonight should look at their end of life planning.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you with your end of life planning? Is there a reason you haven't done it? Or if you have done it, has there been a significant life change and you need to think about doing some updates to it? Or have you told your healthcare power of attorney where your documents are stored? These things are not bad. They're very, it's very important. It's not a bad idea to revisit these important tasks every once in a while. So definitely don't wait till you have a terminal illness to sit down with someone who is educated in what end of life care planning looks like and take some steps in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's never too early to prepare for your passing.
Mm.
Yep.
I could see how it could definitely be too late, though.
True.
It can be too late. It can be too late. Yeah. So anyway, someone had me on a podcast and they said, you think in 10 years, just like everyone should hire an accountant do their taxes, they should hire a doula to do their death. And I said, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any last questions? We have 5 minutes.
5 minutes, but that's okay. We can always end a few minutes early, but that's okay. If there's more questions, then we'll stick around. But I'm sure none of you want to hear my horrible jokes.
Well, I do want to say thank you to Tina and Bonnie for for doing this. That's really great. And
My
I had
pleasure.
said, yeah, I had said to them, we'll show your communities that we're building, their groups. And we didn't get to all that, but we will come on again and have that. And I encourage everybody to go in and look at Ohio, where Bonnie's got her group going. She added a pop-up. She figured it out. I didn't even, tell her she should think about it. That, and go look at Tina's in Florida. And then I did set one up for another doula in Arizona, Tara. Yeah. So, yeah. But this is the last point. This is something that you can really do yourself. I'm just onboarding you guys in training. So I do not need to, I do not need to set up your group for you in the future for anyone. It's what doulas do. They can do it on their own.
Oh, and Jody, I see Jody's asking. Jody, I'm in Deerfield Beach, Florida. I see you're in Jacksonville. Yeah.
I almost forgot.
Good.
Hey, real quick, up in the corner, you will see the donate button. If you would kindly click that, all we ask is for maybe $1 here or there. It helps us keep the show on the up and up and keep it live. So if you find it in your heart, I know someone very special who will really appreciate it. That's me,
Andy.
by the way. I would appreciate it. And in case you couldn't tell, yes, I am very special, but that's for another show.
Thank you.
Well, you know what? Let's. What do you say we go ahead and wrap it up, ladies? Thank you so much for being on the show tonight. You all did a wonderful job. It was very insightful. I felt like I didn't really have anything to offer, but I also learned at the same time. So thank you all for what you do. I lost my father 3-4 years ago. And I know the importance of what you guys do. So from bottom of my heart, thank you. And with that being said, what do you say we get on out of here? All right, folks, thanks for watching. And be sure to tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll see you later.